Good afternoon and a very big welcome back, and a special thank you for joining us in this late afternoon session again. I know it's a popular place to be up in the bar right now. My name is Sam Johnson. I'm from New Zealand. This is Robert Torvelainen from Finland. And we're a part of what is somewhat the mysterious project called the Tom Lab. A lot of people have come around and asking us both this year and last year at the symposium, what is the Tom Lab? And to be honest, we asked ourselves the same thing last year when we arrived, and it was only until Philip said at one stage we were in Bern and said to us, no, you really must come up with an idea. We brought you to Switzerland, and you must come up with a new idea. So it's our great pleasure and our great excitement to be here today and to share with you an idea we have around the power of small states and immigration and entrepreneurship. So I'll hand over to Robert to get going, but thanks for joining us.
Now, imagine if a 17-year-old Elon Musk would have wanted to come to Switzerland. He was young, full of somewhat bizarre ideas, and everyone knows how a strong and entrepreneurial person he is. Well, we all know that he didn't come to Switzerland, but instead left South Africa to go to Canada to study there, and then later on found a route to the US. But let's consider for a moment if he actually had wanted to come to Switzerland, or to Finland, where I'm from, or to New Zealand, where Sam's from. The reality is that even though his entrepreneurial ideas have basically changed the world and continue to change the world, by the time he left South Africa as a 17-year-old kid, our immigration systems wouldn't have given him a second look. In reality, the reason why he went to Canada and why he got into Canada was that his mother was from there. He got into the States because he went there to study. And actually, the US system only gave him citizenship after eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion.
So today we're talking about entrepreneurship and immigration, and particularly how just about every city and country around the world now wants to create their own Silicon Valley, and they want to create a city that attracts top talent.
And looking into research on what creates a Silicon Valley or a thriving entrepreneurial environment, it's something, the research says that it's rather consistent, that you cannot really create it, say that, boom, here it's going to be. But rather, it's something that comes slowly, and you have to create it. And Jim Breyer, a world-renowned venture capitalist, he emphasizes this, saying that it's only something that comes after a long and slow process. And this is something that we are interested in.
So despite what Jim says, though, people continue around the world to pour money into innovation precincts and innovation startup hubs and different communities to try and create and curate the ideal environment for people to create startup businesses. This is an example that many of you will know, called the Downtown Project in Las Vegas, where Tony Heesh has put in $350 million to attract top young tech talent to live there. Now, Tony's the first one to admit that money alone can't solve the vacuum of innovation. But perhaps, and what our contention is today, is that actually that's perhaps the wrong goal. The next slide is from my city in Christchurch, a city that was devastated by earthquakes 4 years ago. A sole traveller, a top young lady, a top woman from an architectural firm in the States, arrived in Christchurch as a tourist, saw this amazing opportunity here, saw how there was so much opportunity. She rallied together all the architectural students in the country. They came into the central city. They produced this massive light festival, a light and architecture festival over one weekend, and brought back 20,000 people into the city. She continued on, starting a startup hub. She continued on mentoring and supporting a lot of different entrepreneurs in their businesses, adding a huge value to the city post-disaster, only to be told that actually her skills are not in top demand in Christchurch and that her talents aren't required, because actually the only people on our top demand skill lists really are plumbers and builders and drain layers. So despite her skills, it wasn't something in high demand.
And this is exactly what we wish to discuss today, how our immigration systems are at complete odds with the global reality and what are the key ingredients in creating a thriving entrepreneurial society or entrepreneurial hub. And looking at the movement of people around the world, we made a few observations. Firstly, countries like Malta and many others, they attract foreign direct investment through schemes called citizenship by investment. These are attractive for many individuals on the accounts that putting in the money, you get a new passport, perhaps freer travel, perhaps better security for yourself, another lifestyle. But the second thing that we observed is that whilst financial capital, it is easy to account and verify, there is a growing need for another kind of capital in the world.
Well, the third trend we noticed was around a lot of people becoming frustrated by the criteria to go into a country is solely geared around financial capital and financial contribution. And the last one is around the well-known fact that entrepreneurial people are particularly attuned to seeing new opportunities in new places.
And I take an example from Finland. Finland is considered a growing entrepreneurial hub. And indeed, in the recent years, many successful startups have emerged from Finland. We have a startup conference called Slush that gathers 15,000 people every year to Helsinki. And there is a huge buzz. Everyone talks about entrepreneurship, about startups. And all of this actually was put off by a few individuals who started creating this buzz and doing things. It was something that didn't come from the government saying that we need to be the Silicon Valley, but it was the few key individuals there. Now imagine that you are a young person or even an old person, it doesn't matter, but you're aspiring to be an entrepreneur, and you think that actually Finland has the perfect environment for my idea. And you start looking into, okay, how can I make it happen? Luckily, you realize that Finland actually offers something called an entrepreneurship visa. Even better, it's different from many countries, where many countries require that you do bring the money in, that you have some capital, and then only you can get the visa. Even though the Finnish system is slightly better than many others, it still has faults, as the system in Finland requires that your startup is profitable. So if we go back to the example, you're thinking about coming to Finland, you do all the paperwork, but then you cross your fingers hoping that the bureaucrats actually understand what you're disruptive, what's your innovative new idea. As the bureaucrats, it's the government officials who are very well known to be risk-averse that evaluate your application. Well, we all know that almost no business, let alone a startup, is profitable from day one. We know that 90% of startups, they actually fail. But what we believe is that actually those 10% of startups that do succeed can grow to be the Teslas, the Googles, the Apples of the world. And this is a risk worth taking. This is a risk worth rethinking immigration.
So the campaign that we're launching today seeks to demonstrate the value that entrepreneurial people add to small states in economic and social terms. And to this end, we want to develop the innovation that helps policymakers attract and identify the high-impact entrepreneurs who can add this value. We're proposing that governments seek and explore systems or schemes such as a citizenship by entrepreneurship. Now, we're not suggesting, though, that countries hand out a visa to every great idea. Rather, we're seeking just a few additional pathways for people to become citizens. Pathways that aren't dependent just on the size of one person's wallet, but on the ideas and the drive of an individual. We think that instead of governments trying to assess, as Robert's been saying, a person's entrepreneurialness, one way forward could be through existing entrepreneurial hubs, incubators in already existing startup communities who know the area well. Say Helsinki. Oh, it's not working. Say Helsinki wanted to be a spearheading city in both the gaming and medical industries. Why not grant the respective hub in Helsinki the possibility to recommend 20, 50, 100, 300 visas to initial entrepreneurs without further specifications? And if these people are on a path to create a sustainable business, within a couple of years, then over the next 2 to 5 years, they could go and continue on the path to become citizens. This way, the city is able to attract the talent and spirit it needs, and at the same time, brand itself an entire new sector. And to make it even more attractive, perhaps the city or hub could provide some co-working space, some equipment, or perhaps even minor funding to make it happen.
And we understand that immigration... Something wrong with this? All right. So we understand that immigration policy... Okay.
Let's see. Good. So we understand that immigration policy is something that is a touchy issue, even if it's limited to entrepreneurs. And we believe that, we are open to the idea that if you believe that there's a need to de-risk our concept, you could introduce criteria requiring that the person has personal health insurance or enough money to fly back home. This is just a technical issue or a detail that you might look into if necessary. What's crucial is like earlier Jim Barrier said, that what needs to be there is love for entrepreneurship and experimentation. And what better way to demonstrate and show this love for both entrepreneurship and experimentation than trial something like the citizenship by entrepreneurship. I think any country that is serious about entrepreneurship should consider this scheme.
No, we're not alone in questioning established practices around immigration.
Sorry. The starting point, actually, for our idea is small states and small countries. As we know, many small countries have tended to punch above their weight. Let's take the example of Finland with tech companies like Rovio or Supercell, or in New Zealand there's Xero. These companies and these countries have demonstrated that they're well apt to adapt to the technical change, and we all know that this change is only going to go faster and faster in the coming years. And another point of view to the small states is actually that it's not that they're very good in adapting these. Finland, for example, in the 90s, we hit rock bottom when the Soviet Union collapsed. But 15 years later, we were world-renowned for our ICT sector. We had Nokia as the crown jewel. Well, now we know that Nokia is gone, but everyone's talking about the Finnish gaming industry. But it's not only that they're well adapted to something new and new ideas, but it's that countries like Finland, they're aging fast. And when you have an aging population, you actually have a very good reason why to bring in new people, new ideas, and new perspectives.
So we're certainly not alone, as I began to say, in questioning the established practices in immigration. Two small countries have already started taking interesting steps forward. Startup Chile in Santiago is one example, where a government-funded program combines incubation and visas and some seed capital to support Chile becoming an entrepreneurial capital of the world. Another interesting initiative is what many will know here about, is e-Estonia and e-residency, a state-issued secure digital identity for non-residents. It might not sound like much, but actually it offers the access to a lot of services and lowers the barriers to do business in Estonia by providing e-residency. And they're moving towards a country without borders in many senses. The third initiative is the wider debate around the freedom of movement of people. It's worth mentioning Forward.us campaign in the US. It was a movement founded by Mark Zuckerberg and a number of the leading tech entrepreneurs who lobby for comprehensive immigration reform in the US. These examples in our campaign today, we like to believe in the future of movement of people, it's going to become a global necessity. And we think small states are the natural leaders to make it happen. Small states, they really are the perfect testing ground to equalize opportunity for revolutionary ideas. Why set up high restrictions and red tape for people who wish to do business or provide a social good in another country? And why limit the duration of a person's visa if they're adding a certain high value or social good? We believe these are the people we should be opening with welcome arms, particularly into small states.
And actually, in many small states, you have growing entrepreneurial hubs. Helsinki was mentioned, Santiago, there's Singapore, Auckland, Dublin, Tel Aviv, Amsterdam, the list goes on. But many of these places, they are found in these small states. So there is a business environment, and it's growing. But actually, there's a lot more than just the business environment. We can look into prosperity, peace, innovation, lack of corruption, education. The list goes on. There are so many factors, the quality of life that the small states possess, that is another additional pulling factor. And there's a growing number of stories of entrepreneurs that have resided in California and places like this that are actually seeking to find new businesses in countries like Finland, just for these reasons, that these countries are stable, the quality of life is high, and there is no corruption. However, and sadly, the immigration barriers are still there, and the red tape is still there. And what we believe is that if we combine the importance of entrepreneurial people, the quality of life, and the setups of many small countries, and our idea of lowering immigration barriers, of innovating in immigration, this could be a seed for another success story for small states.
Small states really have to be smart to succeed in the next 10 years and beyond. Our idea today is just one small move we think that's relatively implementable, quite politically low risk, and provides an opportunity to explore immigration in a relatively safe way that definitely provides for the needs out there in the global community of entrepreneurs. We'd really welcome your feedback and thoughts on it. Follow us on Twitter and look forward to talking to you about it at dinner tonight, to see if the idea around the freer movement of entrepreneurial people and creating a new visa category similar to the citizen by investment schemes that exist and are widely used would be a useful thing to introduce to more countries. Thanks very much for the time and all the very best.
Thank you.